Hi guys.
Welcome to Life Unfinished.
I'm RJ.
I'm Toya.
And so today our topic is we're giving you 7 pros and 7 cons to getting married young. Toya and I both got married fairly young, and so we wanted to talk about kind of that experience and 7 takeaways that are kind of on the good and the bad side. The bad stuff aren't really bad; they're just more things that you have to consider and be aware of, and in some cases, they can make life a little more challenging. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we just wanted to kind of share our experience with that. I just realized we're both wearing red.
Yeah, not planned at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, these things are definitely good to go over because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we don't really think about them or have no one to like talk to us about this before marriage.
Yeah.
And I definitely think it's good. It's kind of like a good tool to have to kind of see if you're ready for that new chapter in life. And people are usually just curious too, like, why did you get married so young? So that just gives you a little bit of a snippet too into why we got married young. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I guess we can start with the pros.
Yeah.
And yes, we did 7 and 7, but do know that there is more pros and cons. So
yes,
we're not saying that, it's just, we just thought it's just to break it down that way. But there is lots of benefits to being married in general. So that's just good to say.
Yeah.
So the first thing I would say is having someone to go through life with.
Mm-hmm.
That is really nice. I think we can both agree it's partnership, and most people like partnership.
Yeah.
Even if we're kind of an independent person, it's still just nicer to have help. So you kind of have that consistent help there, just with everything. So that, as long as you're both doing your part, of course. But yeah, I think that for me, it's more just that constant help, that constant shoulder to lean on, the other opinion when I'm not too sure of what to do is like what's really helpful for me. Yeah.
And the support makes such a difference too. I often, like, my husband and I, we talked about this quite often, and actually earlier when I had my graduation as well, and I was saying to him that I never really knew, like, of course I wasn't necessarily thinking of the details, and I didn't know what the future held, but I was like, the fact that we got married when we did allowed you to kind of be with me through the harder parts of going through school, and that was something I didn't know that I needed. So that support was so crucial and so integral, to have someone close to you, like in that sense, and actually going through life with you. Like Toya said, it does make a difference. Not that your friends and your family and loved ones can't help you, but it is different to have someone who's there with you pretty much every day and gets to see what it's like on your bad days and stuff like that. So that was definitely something that is a pro for sure. And of course there's going to be so much in the future too that we don't know what's coming up, and so at least we know that we have each other there for no matter what comes up in the future. So
yeah, I completely agree. I think another thing would be financially.
Yes.
Yeah.
So pro number 2.
Yeah. Financially is huge because, it does depend on where you're coming from. And we will talk about that a little bit later when we go into cons. But it's kind of like everything is split in half now. So you do have a little bit of a weight if you've been carrying a lot of the costs on your own. It does kind of help you. Don't go find someone just for that. Just so they can help you pay your bills. Not what I mean. But it is nice to have that help and that person who can budget with you. Especially if it's a person who maybe is a little bit better at budgeting. So then they get to strengthen you in that area, and you get to learn different budgeting styles. You learn to value things a lot different. Sometimes you get the things that you couldn't get for a long time because now you have that person that's here to help you get that. Yeah. So I think financially is definitely a huge pro for sure.
And it makes things like traveling a little bit more affordable because you have 2 incomes that you're putting towards that. And it's not just traveling, but whatever your goal is, like if it's a financial goal, for example, buying a house or getting a car, or I don't know, maybe even if it's just a shopping spree or something like that, it does make it a little more affordable when you have 2 incomes that are going towards that. And I guess that point mainly applies if financially you guys are together in that. Maybe it doesn't so much apply if you keep your finances separate, but in our cases we both have combined our finances with our husband, so that's why this point makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Growing together.
Pro number 3.
Yes, growing together is big for me. I think that's one of my favorite things, getting to see that person just like develop. And I'm sure you can see like so much things in Clayton that have like drastically changed. I was actually saying to Samuel yesterday that I've seen things in Clayton that are, Clayton's her husband, by the way, that are so different, like so different since he's been married. He's like a whole different person, which generally does happen when you're married. It's not that you lose yourself, but you just like, there's just a maturity level that kind of comes in. So I think that is really nice because you're growing together. You're supporting each other in those changes, and you're realizing more about yourself in those changes, which is really nice.
Yeah, and that's definitely something, like, as nice as it is just said, it is something that you have to work on. It's not something, at least I feel like it's not something that just happens naturally. You do have to make sure that you're growing together.
Yeah.
But like Toya said, it is really nice to see someone walk with you through that growth, and also be able to point out the growth to you, to say like, hey, you know, you have grown in this way, like I've seen this change in you. Because there definitely been times where Clay has brought something up to me about like something that happened way in the past, like while we were dating, and he's like, well, remember you used to do that or something, and I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. But it's nice to have someone who has kind of been there and then can reference things in the past that you have done differently, and maybe point out how you've grown since that time. So that is really cool to see.
And sometimes it's just decisions together too. So like we're gonna both decide together to be better with our finances. We're gonna both decide together to eat healthy.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not even just like, okay, Ruth, you work on this and I help you. You know, but it's more like you are both making a choice to work on the same thing. So that I think is good.
Yeah.
It's helped me a lot. Yeah. Number 4 is fun. You can start with that one.
Yeah, I love, one of the things I think, and I say about my marriage since we've been married, and our relationship in general actually, is that I love that we have fun together. It's probably my favorite thing about being married, because it makes it more enjoyable. And what I mean by that doesn't mean that there's never bad times, or never times we argue, or never times that I'm like, you know, I'm just so annoyed or angry or upset or whatever it might be. Of course, we still have ups and downs just like anybody else, but overall, I love that we can have fun together with each other. I love that I enjoy being around him. I enjoy his company. I enjoy the little times that we have together, whether it's getting ready in the morning, or whether it's like a quick drive on the way to church or something like that. Just we have fun. We find little ways to make our time together enjoyable. And again, that doesn't mean that it's perfect all the time. Definitely not. And you'll see that when we discuss some of the cons. But I do think that's so important, because it makes the journey, you will have hard times on the journey. So the fun times kind of make the hard times easier when you have those things to refer to. Yes, and worth it for sure.
I know for myself, there's a lot of people that I can have fun with, but I don't think there's anyone I can have as much fun with as I can with Samuel, honestly. Or maybe it's just a different type of fun. I don't know. But like, I think the number one thing for me would be laughter. Like, I in general laugh a lot, which if you got anyone who's watching that knows me already knows that. But Sam was just like definitely the funniest person that I know. Like, I can be having like a pretty crappy day and he just does these things or makes these faces or says something and I'm like crying laughing. And it's interesting because he's saying to me recently, he's like, since you've been pregnant, I feel like, he's like, I thought you laughed a lot before, but now, and I think that's mainly because we spent a lot more time together since I've been pregnant. So I'm just like realizing, man, this person brings so much joy into my life, and that's so important because, and like Ruth said, it's not always, but it's so nice to like just have that person that like, okay, I need to laugh, or I need to feel better, or I just want to go do something fun, and they're so up to doing that with me, you know. So yeah, fun is a huge one. Like, I can definitely say majority of marriage for us is fun. It's for surely fun. Yeah. And
it's like Toya said, it's not always, but it is consistent. I think that's like a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I never thought Clay was funny before, but I think it's because he does like unconventional funny things. Yeah, like that make me laugh and also think he's weird at the same time.
Yeah.
But then he pointed out to me, because I'm like, I always say in past, I'm like, oh, you're so funny. And he pointed out to me, he's like, because he said he was funny. I was like, no, you're not. You're not a funny person. And he's like, you literally say that to me all the time. He's like, you say I'm so funny all the time. I'm like, yeah, but I think like maybe half of it's because I'm laughing at him sometimes.
Which still makes him funny.
Yeah, it's still funny
to laugh at. That's definitely something that, and how that connects to young marriage. We're not saying that, okay, you can only have fun in a young marriage, but that's one of the reasons why it is nice to be married young, because you get that addition added to your life. So that's kind of what we're saying. We're not saying that fun only exists in young marriages.
Yeah, for sure, that's not the case.
Yeah, and our point number 5 is less responsibility.
Yes.
So this is also something that we'll touch on again in cons, because that is dependent.
Yeah,
on,
two sides to it.
Yeah, definitely. But when we say less responsibility, I think really what we mean is there's someone to share responsibility with us.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to do all my laundry by myself all the time. I don't have to be the one to wash the dishes all the time. That's a huge one for me.
Or cook all the time.
Yeah.
It's a huge one.
Yeah, for all you old school people that think only women cook, you know. But yeah, it's nice to just have that companion where it's like who can take the load.
Mm-hmm.
I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And share all the different responsibilities of life with you, which kind of ties into the financial part, because it's like they're helping you pay through that, or
Mm-hmm.
deal with that debt, or whatever the issue is. So that's kind of my take on it. I find that for me, it took a lot of weight off my shoulders, like big time,
Mm-hmm.
big time, because like you don't really you have your parents, but then you kind of want to separate from them as well as you're getting older, right? So you start to take on more things by yourself, like paying rent, and all these crazy things. We buying groceries, like, well, I didn't do that before. So when you do that by yourself for a few years, which was our case, and then someone comes in and can like share that responsibility with you. For me, that was like really refreshing to have that. Yeah.
You also don't have, like, in responsibility wise, sometimes when you get married, you don't have children. That's not everybody's case. I realize that, but. You don't have children, so you don't have that responsibility as well just yet. So it does give you some time in the beginning just for you and your spouse to be together, get to know each other, and just kind of go through some things with just the two of you. And also, oh man, I had another one. Is it related to school? Nope, lost it.
You lost it.
I lost it.
Well, I can actually add to that too. So even if you do have children, it's less responsibility, because I'm thinking about being a single parent versus having a spouse with a child. Huge difference. Like,
yeah,
honestly,
sure.
when I respect single moms and dads, I can't even explain to you guys, because I don't know how they do it. Honestly, like, I give them 110% of my respect.
Yeah.
So that's another way to look at it too. So if you guys do end up having children young or at any point, there's that person to help carry the responsibility.
To go through that with you, for sure. So pro number 6 is accountability. And so you have someone there, so it kind of ties into having someone walk through life with you, and also grow with you. So you have someone there to hold you accountable. And that could be to personal things, or that could be to things like goals, for example. Like if you want to finish school, in the next year, maybe you've been taking your time to go through university or college or whatever it is that you're doing. You have some there that can hold you accountable to those goals. They can also maybe hold you accountable to bettering yourself in some way. So like Toya mentioned earlier, maybe that's spending less money, or maybe that's spending less money in a particular area. Whatever it is that your goal might be, you have someone there to keep you accountable, and who actually has more of an insight than maybe your friends or family would, because they're walking with you through it. So if I'm shopping excessively, and one of my goals is not to, or to reduce maybe how much I spend on clothing, I'm bringing that clothing home, and so my husband will then see that in turn. I mean, unless I'm hiding it from him, which is just
a good idea.
Yeah, it's just another level. It's too much work.
Yeah.
But he's then seeing that, and so then he can keep me accountable to that. Whereas if I asked Toya to keep me accountable to that, not that she couldn't, but she's not really seeing. She's not seeing it when I'm bringing all these clothes home, and then when she asks, "Hey, how's it going?" and I'm like, "Great. I bought one less dress than I did last month." But realistically, I've still spent the same amount of money. So
yeah, and you have goals with your spouses too, right? So your friend doesn't necessarily share those same goals with you, so that maybe doesn't affect them as much if you're buying 5 dresses instead of 1 dress, kind of thing. And I know for me, accountability is a big deal in general, in and outside of marriage. I think it's really hard to be accountable to someone. Most of us don't like accountability because it sucks.
It's when someone calls you out. That's
what
it is.
And it's not a nice feeling in the moment, but for me, I love it because it's so easy for me to sidetrack. It's so easy for me to forget a goal and, just kind of get busy and mix up in life, especially because before this season, I worked a lot. Like I've always been, Ruth can tell you, I've always been like a workaholic slightly, so when you have such a busy life, like you're just shopping, you're just doing stuff, you're not really thinking about what you're doing. So to have accountability for me is really important because I know I can get caught up in work and school and all that kind of stuff. So I think when you now have this permanent accountability, that is nice, because a lot of times we have accountability partners that come and go, but now it's like this constant person who's here to keep you accountable. And
so our last pro number 7 is personal growth. And so again, ties into the growing together that we mentioned earlier. But in this case, we're talking more about if you have things within yourself that you want to work on and that you want to improve. And so I know, for example, one of my personal things is being better at budgeting, for lack of better words. Not so much budgeting, but having a set amount of finances that has been okayed to be spent, and then just sticking to that. I don't really have a problem saving, but if I have more money, then I also feel like I have more money to spend. So that's something I'm working on, is just sticking to that and being able to follow that. And why that's important is just remembering the goal that I have in mind. So that's pretty much what it is. And that's a personal thing that I'm working on, that my husband can and does keep me accountable to, mainly also because he sees all the transactions that happen. So he can say, okay, what was this? Why did you buy it? Why do you need it? And since we've started that, actually, it's like, it's been hard because I didn't realize how much I picked up little things here and there, like whether it was a chocolate bar at the store, or like I'm at Winners and they have these cute little laundry bags for like $10, and I'm like, oh, this is nice. Like just little things. Yeah. Little things here and there that add up over time. So he's definitely able to keep me accountable to that in a way that probably no one else could, because they don't see my bank account. Yeah. So that's what we mean by personal growth.
And sometimes too, before you can go into a marriage, there's things you have to work on too. So this is really good, like, because a lot of people use the excuse, I'm young, I can do it later. But when you're getting married young, it forces you to have to fix those things earlier in life, which is good because then you're maturing faster, right? And you can improve on those things as you get older. So it's just little things, like if you maybe were a little bit more of a selfish person before, you don't notice that, I don't think, as much when you're married. Your friends might tell you, but you're kind of like, oh, whatever. Yeah. But it's not until you kind of get into marriage, you're like, oh, I'm pretty selfish, you know, when you pack your lunch just for you, and you're like, and the person's like, how about me? And you're like, oh, sorry. And you just don't think about how you think about yourself all the time, which is kind of normal because you only have to think about yourself. I know for me, I came from like a background where I was raised by myself. Like I didn't have siblings raised with me, so I never had to think about, okay, my other sibling has to eat too, or you know, it's just, you don't think about that kind of stuff. So it was easier. It was easier for me to adjust than I thought. I thought it'd be really hard. And maybe just because I was raised to give, I don't know. But the point is like, these are little things that you don't have to work on until you get married. Yeah. Because there's nothing to challenge you to work on those things. Maybe you're used to speaking really bluntly or abruptly. Now you have someone that's a bit more sensitive. So you have to consider how the way you speak. These are real life examples, guys.
Tons of things. The list could literally go on and on. Oh my goodness,
yeah. So like aside from, okay, yeah, let's grow together, there's things that literally only you can personally work on for the benefit of your partner, so that you could stay married and not end up divorced
and enjoy your marriage along the way.
Because a lot of people are married but they're not actually enjoying it. So self-evaluation is huge in marriage. The whole I don't care how you feel, you don't, you know, people, there's so much people that have the habit of dropping friends, dropping people, you know, after 1-2 times of trying. They're like, you can't do that in a marriage. It doesn't matter how annoyed you think you are. Like that habit has to go. That mentality of, well, I don't need you. Yeah. It's a big deal if you're carrying that into marriage, right? Which you might not even know that's the thing that you struggle with until you have this permanent partner and you're like, oh yeah, you got to stay here, you know? So I don't get to just be like, oh, this person's too much work. Bye. You know, so that for me is like, that's challenging.
and the selfishness is so important to work on. You really don't realize how that comes into play, because when you're living by yourself, and when it's like, even if you're not living by yourself, but when you don't have a partner, selfishness is not necessarily a bad thing, because there is only you to consider. Yeah.
Me,
for
myself,
the most part, it's only you to consider. But in a marriage, those little things can most certainly chip away at just your relationship with each other. And it's funny because Clayton uses this example all the time about like when I was younger and we were having this conversation about painting the house. I don't even know how, I don't remember the context, but it was while we were at U Ottawa. Yeah. And we had this conversation about painting the house.
I remember this.
And our friend had asked, okay, well, if you want to paint the house one color, and your husband wants to paint the house another color, then like, what do you do? And I was like, well, if I want to paint the house red, it's going to be painted red. And he uses this example all the time. I'm like, let it go. I was like 18.
Years ago, yeah. This guy's hilarious.
But at that time, I did have more of a selfish mentality. Like, I was planning to take that mindset into marriage and say, okay, well, whatever it is that how I think now is how I'm going to think in marriage. And you definitely can't do that, because it will for sure tear apart your marriage. No one, that's like me saying to Latoya, hey, I'm going to be your friend, but I'm never going to think about what you want.
Yeah.
I'm only ever going to think about what I
Wouldn't last
want.
very long.
It doesn't make sense. It's
No.
not logical. So,
And you may not realize it, but a lot of us live like that right now. So, and it doesn't mean, oh my God, go feel bad about yourself. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying that these are things you do have to consider before marriage,
yes.
in marriage, throughout. Like, it's just like, it'll always come up. And then I think eventually you get used to the person being around. It obviously becomes a lot easier because you've been thinking about how they feel for so long, but it will not come naturally.
Yeah.
Because at least, it could, but most of the time it doesn't.
And you never stop working on it.
No.
You really never do. There's always something to work on in marriage. You'll never get to a place of being perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's key.